Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of ParaMindful. I am your host, apparently Melball and Andre. Over there is Alex
Hi,
Werewolf,
Andre.
and down there is the gold standard with the gold wallpaper, Karl Karofel. Karl, how are you doing today?
Oh, it is an absolutely beautiful and fantastic day. I'm here with my friends, and we are going to be talking some amazing paranormal shit. I'm absolutely stoked.
Yes, Alex, how are you doing today?
Well, I can't beat that. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. A little bit tired, a little bit sore, but
Relatable.
yeah, yeah, that's about it.
Relatable.
But I'm good. I'm good, and I'm excited.
Yes, we have an exciting topic planned for you guys today. We have another cryptid that we're going to be talking about. We covered Little Mermaid, and that one was a fun one, you guys. I had a lot of fun discussing all of the stuff around the lore of mermaids and sirens and deep sea spooky ooky ish. You want to go back into our history there and take a look at that. But today we have a very fun another cryptid that we want to talk to about since we are getting into the spooky season. It's early enough. We've started seeing Halloween decorations in July now, which I am not going to complain about because it
I
should be
saw
this way.
I saw Christmas ornaments already. Not like on houses, but like being sold. It was at Walmart. I was like, "Are you serious? You have any like,
Wally Wally, we need to have a conversation.
dear Mister Wally?"
But before we get into our amazing topic, which we will talk about after we have this nice little discussion with our sponsor here, we're going to talk about Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is designed to be the ultimate energy drink for you. It's got zero sugar, zero fillers, 5 calories, packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and all that good stuff. They have all kinds of amazing flavors on there. On top of having energy, they also have protein and BCA kind of supplementation for hydration when you are in the middle of a long gameplay, like a 32-hour Final Fantasy gameplay like I've been watching recently. That being said, we have a fun little video for you with all of the amazing flavors. Karl, take it away, my friend. I love that video. So bougie, so
I
fancy,
like
so
it.
professional. So again, you can go to rogueenergy.com. There, you guys, you can get shakers with tons of samples in it. I got my Mina shaker Kawa today. Finally, she's been absent a little bit, but she's back on screen. And you can use our promo code OLEPODS to get yourself a sweet discount. That being said, without further ado, we're 4 minutes in, you guys. We got to tell everyone what we're talking about today. We are talking about vampires, the bloodsuckers, the mosquitoes of the human world, if you will.
My
Um,
ex-girlfriend.
yeah, they have a tendency to suck more than just the freaking blood out of your body, don't they? But we're gonna talk about these
That
fun
sounded
little
Yep.
thingamajiggies.
I'm not going there.
No one's gonna go there. We're just gonna run with it. So what we want to start off discussing here, the vampires. We did a lot of like kind of looking around, research into the origins of these guys. We have some interesting opinions we were discussing before coming on air here, so we thought we better get the recording going and start talking to you guys about it. So Alex, my friend and trusted colleague, what do we think the origin of vampires really is?
Oh, that is a great question. Um, I don't know. Plain and simple. I
I
mean,
mean, you're the werewolf, right? I mean, we can't
that's
expect you to
right.
know
Yeah.
about your mortal enemy.
How would I know? How would I have no? So the lore, I guess, there are researchers and predominantly the larger group of researchers, they say that it's from a disease that some people have, which is not so much an allergy to the sun, but what is it called? It's called like porphyria, something like that. Anyways,
Porphyria, yeah.
is that what it is? Cool, super smart. Any hoodles. What happens is when you have that disease, skin that is exposed to the sun will end up blistering and stuff. So that kind of piece fits in there nicely. And other than that, it's just almost like I feel like it's a lot of mass hysteria kind of stuff. Like something crazy happened, and then like everything else that was crazy in a small village was kind of like attributed to whatever, you know. Anyways, that's what I have. That's my thought for where it started, but I don't know how that happens in all the countries that have a vampiric. I don't know if it would be called a cryptid or presence. I guess, you know. There's lots of them.
An idol, maybe a vampiric idol.
I don't know what you would call it. Like, is it a cryptid? Is it not a cryptid? I don't know where it lands. You know, so.
Yeah, because cryptids are more considered kind of inhuman, whereas like vampires are human that became inhuman.
Yeah, like I think the definition of a cryptid is a creature that is thought to exist, but there's no evidence that it does exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, besides like pictures, but again, grain of salt. That's my favorite thing with this podcast is take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of salt, maybe a sprinkling of salt.
A huge salt lick, a horse salt lick.
An ocean of salt there.
That is correct. Dry up the ocean and then all that salt. But.
Karl, what do we think about the origin of vampires? What do you think it truly is?
See, again, we really can't put a full stamp on it just because so we get some cryptids that are native to, North America or native to Japan. Vampires are everywhere.
Yeah.
Worldwide. So it's really hard to be able to discern whether it started in, Romania, it started in Czechoslovakia, it started in North America. We don't know at this point, which kind of sucks. I wish that we could kind of research and kind of take our way all the way back to find out where all of this hysteria actually came from, but unfortunately we can't. I mean, really the earliest that we can really figure out is European, and that's really about it. There isn't a whole lot more other than European in places, surrounding like Hungary. Like, so I guess we could essentially say that's where everything started from.
But then
that's about like it's speculation, right?
Do we count those? I mean, in the great umbrella of monsters, you have Dracula and vampires and stuff. But do we count animals like Chupacabra as a vampire, or is it just vampiric because it apparently sucks blood? You know what I mean?
See, that's an interesting question because it's
because if that's the
leads
case,
into our discussion that what can they do?
Because if that's the case, then every country kind of has a vampire that like has developed there that started from nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, which then kind of leads credence to be like, hey, wait a second, it had to have started somewhere. So something happened that made it whatever, So, Chupacabra, different story. I know all about that stuff. I have one in this closet right here. I have one in there. It's chained up.
Nice.
So if we see the handle start moving, we know what that is.
No, those handles don't move. It's one of those ones where you just kind of pull.
Oh, so if it starts creeping open and we see the hand creeping out, we know
that's
what's
correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Just your Chupacabra in the closet.
Just my buddy Stan. Stan the Chupacabra.
Stan, okay.
But that definitely is interesting, though. Like bringing up the Chupacabra. We all know the classic lore of vampires, and that vampires are bats, is kind of what they say, right? But does it necessarily have to be a bat?
I have an answer to this, actually. I
Okay,
have it
good.
right here in my notes. So, in the Highlands of Scotland, I paid attention to this stuff because this is where my family comes from. The Highlands of Scotland, they have, it's a beautiful woman who is dressed in usually a green dress all the way to the ground. But she has hooved feet, and that's why her dress is so long. However, it gets crazier. I wrote it down here just so I wouldn't mess it up. These Slavic people, so I'm not talking about just the Czech people, these are like the people from all that area. They say that vampires take the form of butterflies. Not all butterflies, granted, but there's also taking the form of fireflies. So I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. They seem
I
so
don't know if I could see
gentle,
butterflies, but moths for
right?
sure.
Like they seem so gentle and docile. I'm like, I don't know if it's like if their thought behind it is like it's kind of like a cover, like, oh, you'd never not trust the butterfly, you know? So I don't know.
Hey, I mean, have a little random butterfly land on your shoulder and start sucking the blood out of you. Doesn't something like that exist?
I don't know.
I don't know if there's any bad butterflies, to be honest with you.
That
Maybe.
now makes me wonder about hummingbirds. Because you see,
Oh.
hummingbirds always, you got the little the feeder for them, and
Yep.
you're putting in a red liquid generally into the
Yeah.
feeder
Oh
for a
no.
hummingbird. Could hummingbirds be a vampire or a formation of a vampire?
Hey, there's something I didn't think of. Hiding in plain sight.
Well, I mean,
Right?
yeah.
But in daylight still. Maybe
In
when they're in
daylight
animal form, the
with a
daylight can't hurt them.
right, maybe in this other form the daylight does not affect them, and that's why they change into a different creature of sorts so that they can
Wow.
still go around.
So to that point, I was reading up on I think it was still the Slavic kind of idea of a vampire. They're not bound by sunlight. You know what I mean? Like they're not killed
Oh.
by sunlight, which I thought was very, very interesting that you had just mentioned that. Because at the end of the day, they could be a red panda for all we know. You know what I mean? It could be
That's
whatever.
true.
Because anything that's like nocturnal would make sense, like a bat or whatever.
Right.
But if they're not like hindered by the sun, why couldn't you be a tortoise or a dolphin or something? You know what I mean?
Or wolf.
Yeah. Hey, now, hey.
I'm just saying they have a tendency.
No, fair enough. And it's
And
just
if
very,
the movie
very
magic
interesting.
from the Gary Oldman's Dracula is correct, he did, I believe, at one point change into a wolf to lure
Gary Oldman is the man.
what's her face? The one that she died and then became a vampire and then died again. What was her name? It
Winona
wasn't Mina.
Ryder.
It was the other one.
Winona,
No, the other one.
the other one.
The
Good,
blonde.
good chat. I know who you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I don't remember her name because when I was in the play Dracula in high school, I played Mina, but I didn't. They switched the names of the characters. So Mina was supposed to be Dracula's lover, and then the other girl was supposed to be the friend. But they switched the names, so my name was Mina, but I was the friend, and I got to die
Okay.
twice. That was fun.
Nice.
I was just practicing.
Just practicing in a corset dress. No worry. No, it's fun to dramatically get stabbed in the chest with a corset on. Um, so that being said, you guys, Keith, with the shape shifting and stuff, there's a possibility there. What do we think that vampires look like? Like, do you think that they kind of appear to you as like this, like a person, but fangs and claws and blood and stuff, or do we think they maybe look a little different?
Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
So that porphyria, one of the side effects, I guess, of having it is deformed teeth.
Oh,
So
yes.
also photosensitivity, obviously. So like
Mhm.
you'd be afraid of the sun. But I was reading up on, oh man, what was it? Bulgarian, I think. I think it was some culture in Bulgaria. They have vampires that, well, in their lore, I guess, that you can see in a mirror, as opposed to what we're used to, where you don't see them in a
Ooh.
mirror, but you can only see them in the evening time. Cannot see them in the day in the mirror. So they still disappear, but it's kind of a mix.
Hmm.
If they do
Okay.
exist,
I was going to
I,
say, this has always been something that I didn't think was legitimate about vampires because to me, anything that can physically exist in our world should be reflectable, you know? And if this thing is a
reflectable.
physical existence in our plane, in our world, in our dimension, or whatever, we should see it. Like, even if they're dead, you still see a freaking zombie's reflection in the mirror. You know,
Before you
what,
put a bullet in their brain, yeah, of course.
yeah, double tap, you
Just in
guys.
case, just in case.
Um, but yeah, like that's always been something that didn't quite make sense to me. And, like, it was always something that was certainly sensationalized in pop culture, movies, television, all that stuff. But
Right.
I don't understand. I mean, you can't understand the science behind paranormal things unless you actually see them. But for me, that just didn't always, like, that doesn't add up. If it's a physical thing, you can touch it, you can hit it, you can stab it, it should have a reflection. They, unless they're got some kind of power that prevents them, but it's like, what kind of power would you have that just suddenly like activates when there's a mirror or a reflective surface around there? That to me doesn't seem legitimate. What do you guys think?
So the I think the problem is that we are anchored by what Hollywood has shown us.
Mhm.
If these things do exist, what we have in our brain is Bram Stoker's Dracula. We have Dracula Dead and Loving It. If you loved Liam or
Oh yes.
Leslie Nielsen,
Oh,
Yeah.
so
and
good.
I do love Leslie Nielsen because he's family.
That
Legit
movie
though.
was hysterical.
Leslie Nielsen was a distant cousin of mine.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, right. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that we are anchored by what Hollywood has shown us. So I think it
Right.
would be very interesting to find like maybe an old text, or not text, but like an old book with like, I don't know, 1700s or 1800, kind of like, oh, this is what this person was doing. This is what this person looked like. I mean,
Mhm.
more than likely it's just a dude who was like rabid or something, but I
I
think
mean,
that,
movies, you never know.
yeah, exactly right. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The hell
Carl,
do
To
what do
you
go
you
to
think?
your to go to your point there, Mel, about did they have to have like some sort of special power to be able to like not be seen? Um in lore, would a vampire not already kind of have some sort of power if they're able to shapeshift into a different
It's
creature?
true.
Yeah.
So there would definitely be something there that power wise that they would have.
Mhm.
We've never seen or caught or tested anything on a vampire, so there could be something
That we know of.
physical that is different on the inside that allows something like that on the outside.
We got to go hunting the Twilight one, whatever Robert Pattinson. Got to
Yes.
go hunt him
On the
down.
sparkly vampire.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll bet you his skin's made of diamonds.
I called
Right.
those
And you
guys
know
the
what?
glitter
Hey,
shits.
okay, so let's say that. Let's say their skin is made of diamonds, right? You
Right.
have enough reflective on a
Touche.
diamond, it's not going to show.
That's
There's going to be
true.
so much that it's going to be just light. It's going to be a blinding light of sorts that's there. And you put that up to a mirror, you're not going to see anything but white,
Blood.
a
Yeah.
glow, possibly.
Mhm.
Right. So maybe their skin is different than ours in that respect.
That is a possibility. That is a possibility.
What do you
I'm going to
think,
go
Mel?
right out and say I don't believe that vampires are actually real.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But the just throwing out the possibilities for all of you to chime in the comment section and kind of let us know if you've had these same type of similar thoughts when it comes to
Mhm.
vampires.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because
We're
yeah,
coming
like
up
I
with some
said,
crazy shit. Yeah.
yeah, because like I said, I like if I'm also on the fence about them. I don't really know how I feel. There's just not enough seen, not enough evidence, but there's also just flat out not enough. Yeah, as sad as this it sounds, there's not enough death happening that would be consistent with something that is vampiric.
Right.
Um, that
Right.
being said, though,
I was gonna say with that being
and
said, what about the idea of Blade, where they're like, listen,
you knew
we don't
exactly where I was going.
Meow. you
Freaky
don't wanna
shit.
you don't wanna make it seem obvious like there is something going on, right?
Exactly. And that was going to segue into our next part of this conversation, which you guys also sort of brought up with the movie magic and all this stuff. Something like Blade and even like Underworld. They kind of sensationalize the idea that not only are vampires here, but they're more powerful, not just physically, but economically than humans, it would seem. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a hot minute since I've seen the Blade movies, but they were farming people, weren't they? They were taking the homeless, people that would not be missed, so to
Yeah.
speak, and then just pretty much vacuum sealing and draining them
Yeah, at one point, yeah.
to prevent those kind of I guess deaths from being shown on the news and stuff like that, creating a hysteria. But also, I mean, the way the movie kind of worded it, also, it's a thing that these people are vagrants. They're people that wouldn't be missing, and we can see on the news, or even if you just look up in your local community, there's a lot of missing people. Some of them could just be runaways. Some of them may have just, you know, went to go start a new life with a new name and a new everything and just left it all behind in the wind.
Missing 411 is a
Hey, yeah, I
vampire.
mean, there you go.
My bad guess
So
created me, but
they it's not too far fetched, I think, to think that there could be, but at the same
Right.
time, I feel that people go and peep, and maybe just a lot of these people going missing are just other people making these other people go missing.
I'm
What do you
on
guys
Carl.
think?
I'm on Carl's side of the fence. I don't think there are vampires. I think that something happened, and then I guess you would explain it away as mass hysteria. But I think something happened, and they didn't know how to explain it. And because of that, it was like, I don't know, some old, whatever, not a witch lady, but like, one of those people who like knows the old ways in like an old village and stuff. You're like, oh,
Wise, crazy
I
lady.
remember this from when I was a child, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there are lots, and I'm talking about lots of skeletons that have been found with anti-vampire devices, and
Right.
Give us some examples, Alex. Give the viewers some examples.
sure, actually wrote one down here. Actually, there's a whole like a ton of them in
Tons.
Poland.
Yeah.
So what was it, like maybe like a month ago, 2 months ago or something? They found 450 bodies in a mass grave. Many of them were beheaded, and the head was placed between the thigh bones, like in the between the legs. And that is very indicative of what they would do if they thought you were going to become a vampire or if they thought you were a vampire. However, got some pretty crazy ones. We got in Bulgaria, there is a 10th century skeleton that they found The hands were bound, but they were bound with like herbs and stuff. So it was like tied with like grasses and things.
Mhm.
It was pinned with metal spikes. Um, like I don't know, like I envision a giant like a piece of rebar is what I envision, but they were spikes. They also used to put um, like rings, large iron rings, to kind of like if the body was trying to get out, it would be like attached to the ground effectively.
Mhm.
However, the interesting thing is they would also put in massive stones on top of these vampires' graves because the vampires couldn't open up their grave in theory if there was a rock there. So, leads me to my next one. In Poland, I believe. I want to say it's Poland. I don't know. It's Sozopol. I'm assuming it's Poland. Sozopol, whatever. They call them the twin vampires of Sozopol. They found one in 2012. They found one in 2013. The one from 2012 was an 800-year-old pirate. They figured out it was a pirate, and they found actually his name because it was like engraved. But they found iron rods piercing his chest right through his heart, which I thought was really cool. So I read up on it, and the idea behind it was not only did it pierce the heart, but it also held the body to the ground, which I thought was kind of interesting. The second one from 2013 was a 700-year-old skeleton with a plowshare through the left side of his body. So if you don't know what a plowshare is, welcome to Alberta. it's the it's a
Thank you.
large
Been here 20 years.
it's a large thank you. It's a large knife that is in front of a plow. Like if you're plowing a field, is the first contact knife of like ripping up the ground. So it's very, very sharp.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's a plowshare. Now, they found a plowshare that was inside this skeleton's like left, like went through his ribs and everything, right to where about his heart would have been. The interesting thing is that they have found a lot of skeletons, many, many, many dozen of skeletons with plowshares in the left side of their bodies. It was like the thing to do. So, so they called those two examples the twin vampires of Sozopol. But there are, like, I could have sat there for 45 minutes and written down everything, but I just read them instead. So I'm just going to go off my memory that there were there was one lady who was they know it's a lady, it was a female skeleton who had a large rock in her mouth. I mean, some scientists are like, oh, it's possible that it just fell in her mouth when it was like the casket was decaying or whatever. I'm like, I don't know, but anyways, they found one with a spike through the mouth, out the back of the head into the ground. They found a whole bunch where they are chained. The interesting thing about the ones in Poland is that not only did they have spikes to the chest, but a lot of times the heads would be cut off and the skull would be turned around. So like the body would be facing up, but the head would be facing what would be the pillow in a casket, like facing down, right?
Oh.
The other interesting thing about it was they all found they were padlocks, but there was a padlock on the big toe, and they don't know what the padlock was for, whether there was a chain on there that rotted away or whatever, but I don't know. They don't know. But there's a padlock on the big toe, on a big toe of the skeleton. And there's pictures of this, so I'm not making this shit up, but yeah, it's very interesting. So it was all in like the attempts of making these vampires basically not able to leave the casket. Which brings me to my last one. I want to say it was 2018. I just remember this off the cuff here. 2018-ish. They found a skeleton who had a scythe, so like a sickle. Think of old USSR Russia. They have the hammer and the sickle. The sickle is like a large curved blade that they would cut wheat with or whatever, right? They found that around the throat of a skeleton and attached to the ground. So, in theory, the vampire tries to wake up, it cuts its own head off. Pretty crazy.
I mean, that
I mean,
seems like a really effective measure to
right?
keep someone down there.
So, like, there's something. These people are afraid of something.
Hmm.
I just don't think that it's. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mhm.
I don't think it's Tom Cruise. I don't think it's Brad Pitt's characters from Interview. You
I
know,
don't know about Tom Cruise. He's a little sus.
he's a Scientologist.
I mean, same shit at this point.
Lord Xenu will in fact spite you. Okay, okay.
Who?
Xenu. Long story short, they believe in Xenu, who's an alien overlord or some shit like that.
Uh,
It's yeah.
People gon' peep.
I,
People gon' peep.
I
Um,
apologize, Tom Cruise, if you're watching this, but you're a wackadoodle, buddy. Sorry, man. I'm
I don't
sorry.
apologize. You're a whack job.
Hey, I don't want to get sued. All right. My
What he
personal
gonna do? Give
opinion.
you bad teeth?
What's that? Sorry.
What's he gonna do? Give you bad teeth?
I don't even know. Scientology. We're getting off track, but Scientology rules the world for sure. They're probably all the reptilians or
Which
something.
is concerning in itself. But getting back to the topic
Yeah.
at
Sorry.
hand here.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. This is what we do. We
That's what I
segue into
do.
other things. Um, yeah, it certainly seems to be a hysteria thing because it's telling me that like there's spikes going through the things into the ground would tell me that there's a possibility that the coffins and stuff were reopened after burial
Yes.
to place them in there. So it certainly make sense if that something happened, they think something happened and things are continuing to happen
I
and they
meant
feel that that's how it's dealt
I
with.
meant to mention this part.
Mm.
A lot of the bodies, the skeletons that they have found that have these anti-vamp. I love this. Is awesome. This the anti-vampire measures. A lot of them, when they've been studied and everything, have been shown to have been mutilated after death.
Hmm.
So, like after burial, I should say. So it's just like something happened in the village or whatever. And like, oh my god, maybe it's Susie. So they open up the casket, put a pin in Susie, cut off Susie's head, turn it around, rebury her, that kind of thing, right? So it wasn't like the mutilation of the corpse was not done pre-burial.
Susie was such a nice girl until she died.
That's what she thought, yeah. Now,
And that being
Karl.
said, though, to kind of go back to what you were saying with the hysteria thing, I mean, we've all gone through that pain of loss and grief and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but like when I've had a close family member die and that person is constantly on my mind, you start to almost feel a little crazy because maybe you're starting to kind of see them around or notice more things about them that they maybe did in life that you maybe didn't notice until they're no longer there, and maybe that feeds the hysteria of like, oh, Susie used to leave oranges on the windowsill and you
Yeah.
mistakenly left an orange on the windowsill, or someone else mistakenly left it there, and suddenly,
Or
oh, she's a vampire, let's go dig her up and cut her head off and turn it around. And
or it wasn't Susie at all. It was just the neighbor or a
yeah,
poltergeist.
or the raccoon, like who knows. Yeah, it could be anything like that. Carl, what do you think about that?
I don't know what to think about that, if I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, it's interesting that the way that they would do things to prevent what they would figure would be a vampire returning
Mhm,
um makes me wonder why they would go through such.
mhm,
Did it happen at some point that there was a person or a vampire that maybe wasn't fully dead and came back to life while being buried, and there were maybe a hysteria in that sorts came about, which then led to the whole no, let's throw something through its heart because it shouldn't be alive anymore.
Yeah,
mhm.
you would hope.
Right. um
You know where that
It's just
statement took me, Carl?
yeah,
The
where?
Nun. Do you remember The Nun? Have you
Oh
guys seen
yeah.
The Nun? With the
Yeah.
Yes, I
bell,
have.
the bells in the graveyard, and then the
Yep.
whole just ding-a-ling chiming away.
I was
Yeah.
Jeepers.
gonna bring that up though, because it's not beyond the realm of possibility, because they did have people being buried alive, and that's why that was a thing.
Mhm.
So that's also why there's wakes. I don't know if you guys know that, but the idea of a wake is because they're waiting to see if that person is going to wake up before their funeral.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to also mention there are like prerequisites, I guess, for vampires. So a lot of cultures, it's if you die in a weird way, you could become a vampire. If you were
Oh,
not christened, you could become a vampire. If you were not baptized, you could become a vampire. But the one that I thought of, or sorry, the one that I thought was the craziest was if you die in a weird way. What does that mean? I don't know if it's like you just fall down dead, or if it's like, oh, he was walking and a tree branch smoked him in the face and he died. Like, is it that kind of weird, you know? So,
yeah. Like what does it mean by weird? Because like usually when like again, this is a movie magic thing. The idea with the vampirism, especially in Blade, is that it was almost like a virus
hmm
that you got infected by through bite. Um,
Right.
except for that one girl in Blade 3 where her fangs were apparently somewhere else. But that being said,
scandalous.
it was, and it was Ryan Reynolds of all people.
Attaboy, Ryan Reynolds.
Shout out Triple H and his vampire Pomeranian.
Yeah.
Where do I get me one of those? I would feel hella safe walking around in Edmonton after dark with one of those things. Um, but yeah, vampires have become a very interesting conversation for us today. I'm enjoying this pathway of conversation, guys. So we kind of picked this topic of conversation based on the release of that newest vampire movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which we know is based loosely on an incident or incidences, much like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I'm going to assume there's as much tied to those true stories as there is to that story. But Carl, do you think that a ship like the Demeter existed and that a vampire character thing was on there? Do we do we think that something like this could have happened, or do we think that this was just sadly another example of people peeping and reading people
I
off the boat?
I think there definitely is the possibility that yes, there was a ship of sorts, probably not called the Demeter, but there was this ship that was there where somebody was on it that was a little out of sorts, we could say. And yeah, people peeping, I guess is the right terminology for it for this episode. Um, mass hysteria created on a ship over this, right? And it could even have been as simple as, "Hey, I don't like that guy. I'm gonna go
Mhm,
tell my buddy. Yeah, I know what I saw this guy doing. You
Yeah.
know what I caught? You know what I saw?" And then buddy's gonna believe his friend and be
mhm.
like, "Shit, dude, no, seriously, yeah, man." And then
For
they're gonna go,
legit.
and then they're gonna
Yeah.
go, and then it's just gonna create this whole effect of this guy's messed up,
Yeah.
right?
That makes a lot
And
of sense, actually.
yeah, and
Mhm,
I think
mhm, like
that's
the game of telephone.
probably yeah, exactly like the old game of telephone. And I think that's probably exactly what it was. That maybe somebody just didn't like someone else that was on the ship and kind of went to his buddy, and then his buddy relayed what was given to him, and it just built and built and turned into dude's a vampire, kill him.
It
And
makes
then
me kind of
self-defense resulted in.
makes me kind of kind of think of the Salem witch trials,
Right.
because we all think, I guess, like the idea is there that they killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of witches, but they didn't. There's only like 20 something or something like that. Anyways, how much of that was like, oh, dude, man, you know what? I slept with this chick and she's a little bit bananas. I don't want her to tell my wife she's a witch. You know what I mean? So, like,
Right.
you got your personal vendettas in there for sure, but I wanted to bring up the idea of ghost ships, like the Mary Celeste and like that kind of deal, right? There's quite a few ships that have just like been floating with nobody on it ever. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense because they had to leave port with people. So most of these ships are not damaged either. So it's not like they were sinking or capsized or whatever. So there's your idea.
Was there anything else found on it, or was just the ships?
Ship was empty.
Um,
Read up on the Mary Celeste. It's very interesting. Yeah, Mary Celeste is a ship, by the way. It's the name of the ship, so it's very, very famous. There, you'll have no problem finding it. But
Nice.
yeah. Anyways, it's just an idea. But like I said before, I am not in the camp of believers in vampires. I think that maybe there's some stuff that might be vampiric, like might suck blood, like the chupacabra. Maybe. I mean, that's like a 25% legit kind of thing for me. But I mean, you never know what else is out there, right? You know, like I mean,
yeah.
the government right now is like, hey, yeah, by the way, we lied. The last like 90 years we were lying about aliens, so
Right.
my bad. And then you got to wonder
What
why.
else they lying about?
Well, that's the thing. Why are they telling us now that they're lying? Is there because there's something bigger and worse, or they're blood-sucking dragons or something? I don't know. Fuck, who knows?
At
Sorry.
this point, no. At this point, that's probably the least far-fetched thing I think I've
You know,
heard.
and that's the thing is every last one of every last one of these things that we talk about is it's very difficult to prove. Like there's proof that these people are missing and missing for one or that kind of thing,
Right.
but there's no proof of what's happening. There's no proof of vampires. There are situations where you're like, well, that kind of fits, you know, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're all sitting here going, I wonder. But we've wondered for so long with, just for example, again, these extraterrestrials and unidentified flying objects. And now the government's like, no, you guys are bananas, man. Project Blue Book said they don't exist. But now they're like, well, I guess they do exist. Here's the videos.
Oops.
Right? So what else are they just like, oh yeah, Bigfoot doesn't exist, or the blood-sucking monkeys from whatever Yosemite National Park, you know, like shit, what's next, you know?
Oh yeah, I heard about them.
Yeah. Well,
Would
the point
definitely
I'm making is that
watching or going to that place. That's for sure.
the point I'm making is that anything is really possible at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
And until we have some sort of proof, not just like, yeah, we found a skeleton with a sickle around its neck. I mean, I'll probably, you know what? Fuck it. I was going to get cremated. Now I'm just going to get buried and I'm going to get them put a sickle around my neck. Surprise. You know what I mean? Like
Alex's last request. Cut my head off, turn it around, put a sickle around my neck, put a rock in my mouth.
Just to mess with whoever's opening it up. Grave robbers or something. But yeah, I mean, there's too much out there that we don't know about. So for me to say it 100% doesn't exist, I won't say that because I'll be the asshole who's like, haha, Alex, they do exist, sucker. You know what I mean? So I'll give this one 3% chance of existing. 3. Yeah.
Hey, that's better than none.
Exactly right. I mean, there's still a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Hey, didn't they just find that ancient underground entrance to the underworld under the church in Mexico?
I haven't heard about this one. Now I'm going to have to read up on it, but
I've heard a little bit about it, not very much.
Interesting.
Yeah, Karl and I were talking about it, and we're pretty much in agreement. Just freaking open it.
I've
It's
been,
probably already open, but just open it.
I've been reading up a lot on different pyramids in the world, and how there's some in South America that when the conquistadors came, they were basically pyramids built on top of pyramids built on top of pyramids that were just kind of like crumbled. It looks like a mountain. And then they found that it wasn't, like, whatever, say 10, 15 years ago. And they're like, holy shit, what is, you know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
they've come forward and saying, hey, there's mounds in the United States, but they don't know what's buried in the mounds. They know it's a burial mound, but the government has made laws that you're not allowed to dig in those mounds. So what's there, you know? So, hey, maybe they're vampires.
What's there?
Maybe they're
Maybe.
vampires.
UFOs.
Little baby UFOs full of
Right?
vampires.
Yeah.
Sounds like we got a topic for another episode here.
Anyways, I apologize to whoever watches this and like, man, shut the up, Alex. Honestly,
Not at all.
we were talking about vampires and now you're talking about mounds in North America.
Hey, we're setting ourselves up for more episodes for you
That's
guys
right.
with way more spooky-ish
Oh,
to
yeah.
come your way. That being said, Karl, do we have any final thoughts on vampires? Dracul.
Dragul.
Other than Dracula, I mean, I think that we can kind of see where it has progressed into modern day societies, I guess you could say, from all the different films, the interview with the vampires to television with like True Blood and stuff like that, right? And
Dracula
very much
2000?
so like, hey,
Dracula 2000. Do you remember that one where
yeah.
Oh, so
what's
good.
his name? This is Sparta. Leonidas played Dracula. My goodness. Continue, sir.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Um, I think we have to take it as such at this
Yeah.
point, because without the real definitive proof, like we've never found a skull or a remains that have the fangs that a vampire should have, or
Yeah.
those characteristics.
Right.
Without that, it is at this point just a lore that is out there.
Mhm.
So just enjoy the lore, enjoy the films, whichever kind of film that you like to watch based on vampires, television series that are based off of vampires, because there's a plethora of them out there that Hollywood has given to us.
Mhm.
But always keep in the back of your mind that 3% chance.
Before we call it, I want to just mention, obviously, a lot of the Romanian kind of deal. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Vlad Tepes, so Vlad the Impaler, where a lot of this stuff kind of circles around, and how he used to impale, well, supposedly impale his victims on spikes and then eat whatever food or whatever was underneath.
Hmm.
I mean, grain of salt. Those stories, obviously, they're not really proven. I mean, historically, people say he did it, but I haven't seen it. So, but yeah, so it'd just be remiss if we didn't mention Vlad Tepes in
Absolutely.
Romania.
Of
So
course.
yeah,
Well, and also people were so
Transylvania.
afraid of him that
Yeah.
haven't they not actually recovered all of his body?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I
I
know his
feel
story,
like
but I don't know what happened to his body after he was.
I feel that after they took him out of that cell thing that we know he was in that one castle when he had passed away or whatever, I heard that they only have his skull. I
Well,
heard that
I'll,
the skull was found in a forest somewhere, and there's now
I'm
a
not sure.
monument where it was found, but everything
I'm
else is
not sure.
gone.
What I do know is, I mean, it's iffy to say, but he's like a national icon.
Mhm.
He's a national hero almost, because what he did was get tortured and beaten and whatever, almost killed or whatever as a child, and
Mhm.
then he came back to rule and he crushed them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. He may not have been the,
he's
crazy
probably not the
vampire
nicest
person
fella.
he was, but he
Yeah,
sure knew how to take care of his country,
yeah,
apparently.
and yeah. So the stories are pretty
Mhm.
horrific. So if you're gonna go read about it, people just be aware that there's a lot of brutal stuff.
Different times back then. Very
Very much
different
so.
times back then.
But I think also back then is you had to make a statement. You know, I mean, you should make a statement now if you're like whatever, an oligarch of some sort. But I think back then it's just like, hey, if I don't act banana pancakes, people are just gonna walk all over me, right? So like, oh man, let's
Yeah.
not mess with Vlad. Let's not mess. Nope. I'll end up with a spike up my
Yeah.
butt and out my mouth. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
I
nowadays,
I,
if
lo-
someone
I
wants
love
to shock people, they just blow something up with a drone or something.
I love
Back
what
then,
Carl's
it's like,
doing.
yeah, I've been watching them
So
the whole show.
it's
I
so
love
funny.
it.
Interesting. Yes, very good. It's so good.
But like back then, you wanted to make a statement. Yeah, maybe it's putting a couple hundred of your worst enemies on a couple sticks outside of your
Hmm.
fortress as a message to the others might be a pretty dramatic F
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
It was one of
Yeah.
those F around and find out, I
That's
think,
right. That's right.
moments for whoever was invading. And I think
It's
that's why it took them so long to finally invade.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it goes all through history. Like even if you could talk about the French Revolution, right? We are
Mhm.
going to like the Prise de la Bastille, where they the start of the revolution, where they were throwing people off the Bastille, and then they were cutting off their like all these rich people's heads with the guillotine, saying, "Hey, listen, this is what
Mhm.
happens when you screw around, right?
I
You
mean,
can
and
get your
look
head
at
cut
like
off.
any of the
Boom.
Roman emperors.
Yeah.
Any
Anyways,
single one of them. I mean, just pick your poison. Some of them yeeted people off of something. Some people dropped things on it. Wasn't it Caligula who tried to kill his mom by dropping a piano on her while she was sitting in her chaise?
I have no idea. The only the,
People
the only
going
thing I
for
know about Caligula is that Penthouse made a movie called Caligula, and it was like the most sexually explicit movie of all time. And it wasn't supposed to be a porn, but the only people that would allow it to be made, the only way they could get money for it was through Penthouse. So it
I
became this like
mean,
massive porn.
if you know anything about Caligula's history, you would know that that's probably not too far off.
No, probably
He
not.
was
I mean,
not a normal human being.
Hollywood
We're
wouldn't
not
lie to
going to
me.
talk about ancients behaving badly. That's a
Movies
show
don't
you
lie
can
to
enjoy
me.
on History Channel.
Or Caligula, download it from penthouse.com. I don't actually know if it's there though. I was just throwing that out
Oh
there because it's a
dear.
funny thing to say.
And do you guys,
Anyways,
Carl, do you have anything else to say on the vampire topic here before we get out of here?
I think I'm good. I think the only last thing that I can add to this is, I don't say blah blah blah.
Yes. Yes. I love this. Thank you for doing that. I was hoping that would make it somewhere in this. So, that being said, we are coming to the end of our show. Alex, my friend, people wanting to track you down somewhere, where are they going to find you?
I'm in the wind. I'm like a vampire. No. YouTube, World with the Movies. Yeah, I'm right behind you, Carl. Boom. You didn't know it. I just left. Sorry, you can't see me now. World with the Movies, Wagey Cannon on YouTube. I got a couple other things that I'm brewing up, but I have yet to create them. It's all inside this awesome notebook of awesomeness.
Can I see the
And
front
don't
of that
forget to
notebook
follow me
for a
on
minute?
Instagram. That looks like a really
Okay,
black
there's
book.
nothing written on there about
Nope.
It
notes
is not the
of.
Book of the Dead, no.
Nope.
Okay.
But it does feel like skin. So
That's unsettling.
this is where I keep all my treasures. No, I'm just kidding. This
So
is
follow
where I
Alex
keep
on Instagram at Alex Werewolf.
I basically drain my brain into there because my brain's too busy. So
Relatable. Relatable. And Carl, if the people are wanting to follow you, where can they find you?
Right here
On
with
your
my
link
link
tree.
tree.
right her.
linktr.ee/KARLKARUFEL. That is Linktree, linktr.ee/Karl Carafel.
I love where they put the dot. So random.
Right? I don't get it.
Hey, it's, as we said, it's something unique, something
is.
different, and they're
Unique New
not
York.
impaling
Unique
a
New
couple
York.
hundred of their enemies out front of their house. So that's good. I don't think that would be looked kindly upon in this day and age.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to follow a Melball, you can follow her at the X thing at Collins Melball. You can follow her on everything else at Melball Collins. We'll just put emos for that and 2 names. As Karl's expecting my list of stuff. We've also got some fun stuff to talk about with merchandise. Karl, you want to talk about our fun stuff?
Yeah, we do have some merchandise available for you. Take a look in the ticker down below. It gives you the website to go to. It is karlkarafel.redbubble.com. We definitely do have a little bit of merchandise over there, including on the screen now the ParaMindful t-shirt. It is available right now for you to go. I do want you to know that every purchase that is there does go back into the channels and everything that we do here, and we really appreciate the support that we have had with the purchases that have come through so far. So please make sure that you are checking out karlkarafel.redbubble.com. And we have been saying it for a while, but we're going to work really hard on it with more merchandise coming soon.
I'm working on it right after this. I've been working on it for like the last 2 weeks, folks. So I'm coming up with cool things.
We were discussing some of the images before coming on here. Alex has been working very hard on coming up with some fun stuff for you guys. With that being said, I think we've come to the end of our show now. Keep in blah 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 blah. Keep in touch with us also with our email, paramindful@gmail.com. We have something down there. We go. If you guys have any spooky stuff you want to share with us, any questions, concerns, or if you're dealing with something yourself, you need help. If we don't know how to help you, chances are we can find someone who can. Just send us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. That being said, I think that's going to wrap everything up today. I am your Melball. Over there is Alex the Werewolf, and down there, the gold standard with the gold wall, Karl Karafel. We will see you next time. Keep spooky.